obviously transpose into an annual wage number. And so then what I did was I thought, who are the absolute certain players that we should sell, that are just undebatable? You can't debate whether you should sell them or not. Then I wanted to create like a second list of players that you could have banter about and is debatable as to whether you should sell them. And then the third sort of set of choices is just your own personal preference. So first question is, I asked folks last week, and we had some responses, is, what's the total value of the players that we have on our books? And from a cost perspective, and I've gone through, and I'll publish this. We need a website so I can put stuff like this up. And I don't mind sharing this because it's not perfect, and I would love for other people to collaborate with us. But we've got about 185 million in sterling in players on our roster that are squad players. And I've included in that number Dele Alli. I've included in that number Alex Pritchard. And then everybody else is a current squad player or a player that was a starter that's out on loan. From a transfer value perspective, it's about 270 million quid, resulting in a gain or loss. And I'm more than happy to we can go through this and we can talk about individual players. From a wage standpoint, you hear this £100 million figure bandied about all over the place. And although that's in the financials, I can absolutely promise you that is not the number for our squad players. Because I actually feel like that I've inflated some of the numbers based on sort of erroneous reporting. And I put our squad player salaries to the tune of around 70 million. And again, I'm more than happy to go through all of this. So, all right, so all that backdrop out of the way, either one of you or both of you, name players without looking at that spreadsheet, without question, that you feel like doesn't need any debate, they should be gone.
Adebayor.
Okay. Yep.
Capoue.
Great.
Paulinho.
Interesting.
Dembele.
Interesting. And then so Katie, these are players that, without any debate, should be leaving. So I'm actually surprised personally that you would say Paulinho and Dembele in there, because I think there should be questions there. Where are you, Simon? You going to get a beer?
I'm here.
Okay.
You wankers.
Players.
IPA he's drinking, by the way.
Must sell, not must, but just players that there's no debate.
I have to agree probably on the first three that Ken mentioned.
All right. So let me give you
Adebayor and Capoue.
All right. Well, then let me give you others that you probably didn't think about. I didn't think about it at first blush either. Lewis
Holtby. They both.
Holtby's gone. Yeah. Holtby is gone. Lennon is debate. So here maybe so, but depending on what route you want to take, right? You've got some interchangeable parts that you would keep one if you sold another for the right price. So here's my absolute no question, no brainer sales. Addy, Capoue, you put Friedel in there because he's gone. I mean, but he's not going to be sold. He has no value anyway. Lewis Holtby, Yunus Kabul, and I put Tom Carroll on that list because I just think that with all of the midfielders that we have, and I know he's young and I know he's got some talent to him, but he's surplus to requirements. I mean, you're trying to figure out how you can bed Alex Pritchard in before you're thinking how he's going to fit in this lineup. And I actually feel like that he has some marketability to him. So. Okay, so with those players, let me share with everybody what I think their values are. I'll start with Kabul. I have Kabul at $4.5 million. I have Tommy Carroll at $3.5. I have Lewis Holtby at $4 million. Friedel at nothing. Capoue I have at $6.5 million. And Adebayor I have at $2 million. And one of the reasons why you may be surprised at Addy is you think, well, wait, he's a proven striker, can play for most Premier League teams. He should be worth 5 or 6. He has an abhorrent contract. We pay him a ton of money, of which he has a year left on. I think his contract's worth about £118,000 a year, and we'll need to supplement at least half to 3/4 of that. I mean, what do you think his wages should be at a new club? $50,000 a week?
Yeah, but he's always said he's never going to take a pay cut.
No, he's not. So I started with a £5 million valuation for him, which I think is pretty reasonable, and then I backed out the value of what we would have to supplement to his new team, and we'll just take a $2 million fee and tell them to go on about their way and pay him however they want to, because he's really a £5 million player. So the collective value of all of these players is about, of the not must sells, but the absolute no-brainer sells, is about 20 to 21 million quid. Okay? So now let's go through and let's talk about the debatables, and it's a big list. On the list of debatables includes Lennon, Townsend, Musa, Paulinho, Soldado, and Vlad. Am I missing anybody? don't think I
can't think of anyone.
I couldn't think of anybody. And let me give you, I don't know whether I need to go give you respective values, but I put the value of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players to the tune of about $51 million. So if you combine the debatables with the absolute must-sells, you get to what I think is a pretty conservative collective transfer value of about 70 to 72 million pounds. Now, we're obviously not going to sell 11 players. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to sell 11 players in a window. But could we? I don't know. What's a reasonable? What would be a reasonable expectation? What's the most players we've ever sold in a window?
I think I can't answer that. There's probably been 5 or 6, definitely, including fringe players, but not, academy guys whose contracts have just not been renewed. But I think Poch, if you've listened to what the media snippets have said, there's 8 to 9 that he would love to see moved on. Whether those 8 or 9 will actually move on, or we'll still have some loans out there while we try to look for potential suitors. And I think that's probably the case with Carroll. Ken, we go back to the Chicago conversation with Zeke Friars and Tom Carroll in the center circle at the open training session. Well,
Friars by Pochettino.
Friars was moved on to Palace, and Carroll went off on loan. So it's probably saving a little face for Pochettino, but he saw that Carroll's probably not in his long-term plans, but he probably felt that giving him a loan was showing some of the loyalty for someone who came through the ranks. But it's probably a done deal that he will leave and may even stay at Swansea if they want him. So you're probably right in that regard, Sam. But I think if he is one of the 8 to 9 that have been identified, we can probably quite easily fill in the other players. Yeah, I don't think it will be 10 or 11, though.
No, I just don't think that you have enough time. So one of my biggest takeaways from all of this, irrespective of what you think you should do versus what's physically possible, is this: we have a monumental task here, and let me add the overlay of a manager's deep desire to get this shit done as quickly as possible.
Right.
Well, how do you do that? And so, in addition to sort of identifying the fact that this is a monumental task, any time that we can do business that involves both cash and players, it's huge for us. Right. So let me go into let's go into quick needs identification. What do we need? What players do we need?
I think we need a center back, a center defensive mid, and a left winger.
Okay. Simon? What's our most glaring?
Well, there's something going wrong.
Center defensive midfielder.
There's something going wrong with the chemistry in defence, whether it's Vertonghen and where's his head each week. Fazio is not it. There's definitely a need for a partner. If Vertonghen can sort himself out and be the player that we saw when he first joined Spurs, whoever can partner with him and get that chemistry right. I think Danny Rose has left back sewn up. Right back seems to be all up in the air right now. Yedlin's probably not quite ready, and Walker has just been out of sorts all season for the amount of time he's been fit anyway. So that has been a problem for us all season when it shouldn't have been. But we sold Carl Norton, which again was not an answer, but at least it was cover. So we've been woefully adrift there. Although I thought Dyer did really, really well, to your point, Ken, on Saturday. Yep. And I know that's not his desired position, but he actually did play a pretty good game against a pretty good team. He's had some games at right back where he's been lacking a little bit. So I certainly don't want to give him the merit based on that one game, but that's kind of my assessment at the back. Right. And in the defensive midfield, we've definitely got to figure it out. I said it last week, this Bentaleb Mason thing, it's not working anymore. They're starting to make these mistakes whether they've got comfortable with their role because they think, well, we're the starting two here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw something that's a curveball, mainly because you've mentioned it a couple of times now, Sam, and it's kind of this looking a second time in a match and seeing what Lamela contributes in his defensive roles. Could he ever be a central defensive midfielder and able to control the ball and spread the passes from that position?
No, don't think so.
Okay. And I know that's pie in the sky.
But that's a great question. I haven't heard anybody ask that. It's interesting because but he's physical, tracking people down and coming back. He's not like I would think your typical central defensive midfielder is a guy that makes tackles from more of a head-on perspective as opposed to tracking back and using some guile to get good position on people and steal the ball. And I don't know. I don't know. When he has his bad days, it's because we say he looks frail, right? But he didn't look frail. But I understand why you'd ask that question because he was very sprightly. He was in for every tackle.
Yeah. And he's done it a few times, but it has been more of the tracking back. And I think if we said it before we went on air, if we can pick anyone to be that CDM, it's Schneidlin, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's got to be either him or Barkley because I don't want to go outside the league, and those two are the best two options against for teams that are legitimately struggling right now. Not Southampton so much, but he's made no bones about the fact that he wants out.
Yeah.
So he's going to become available. And when you look at, I can go through and I can see I've been just jotting some stuff down while you guys have been talking. I have 3 players I would love to get. I don't see us getting more than 3 players. I would be shocked if we got more than 3 players.
Okay.
I don't know what we're going to sell or get rid of or loan out. I could see maybe a Capoue going out on loan. Maybe even Kabul, even though he needs to be sold. I could see him going to over to the French league and being loaned or whatever. I have Schneiderlin wrote down, and it's at 25 mil. That's a lot of money, especially since we've heard speculation and talk that we're not going to spend more than 15. But if you take a beginning chunk of money, whatever that beginning chunk is, 35 million that Pochettino has given, and then you make those sales and you increase that kitty a little bit, you can go out and get a Schneiderlin. I don't know that. With Lamela being left-footed, he would basically take Lamela or Bentaleb's spot if you do what Simon is saying. But now you've left that right wing open, and is Townsend the answer there? That becomes a little bit of the question. I don't think so. If Lamela's never played in the defensive mid role, that would be another season of watching this kid get used to something so that everybody in the world can slate him. I just don't see it. He's a right winger, a left-footed right winger, and that's what he is. I think Schneiderlin working with Bentaleb and having someone like him be the absolute voice in the midfield and be the captain of the team would be paramount. If there's nobody else we go get, it should be him.
Agree.
The left wing is the other thing that I said that I think we need fixing. I love Chadley to death. I would almost prefer him be a backup striker if we don't go out and maybe get a Charlie Austin or something like that. Felipe Anderson plays for Lazio, 15 million euro. That's all his transfer market value is. I think he would fit perfectly into the system. He plays a lot like Lamela. He's not as defensive, but his speed is blinding and his foot control is incredible. I think he would greatly open up the left side of the pitch versus what Chadley does for Eriksen and Kane, allowing Eriksen and Kane to be a little bit more creative in the midfield. They would have to pay attention to somebody like Felipe Anderson on the left side. And then Toby Alderweireld, who is with Southampton at center back, you maybe bring him in, let Dyer learn under him. Maybe, and Dyer becomes, I'm not going to say the starting right back, but you can't, I'm sorry, you can't trust Walker's health right now. I said a couple of weeks ago, I think he may be the surprise sale of the summer. I love him to death. He's an England national. I would not be surprised if he gets sold. It would not shock me at all.
That's a hot soccer opinion there.
Yeah, so those are my 3. Felipe Anderson, Schneiderlin, and Alderweireld.
Well, look, I think we're all in general agreement here. I identified, without question, the most important positional need that we have.
We
I was going to talk about Soldado's value, and I have Soldado's value at £7.5 million.
Okay.
And there's a lot of different websites that would disagree with me, but when I came to transfer value, I wanted to make sure that I was trying to be as conservative as possible. And I have to give a little bit of shout out to Josh Olson. He gave me some good guidance there, and we really used Fernando Torres as somewhat of a proxy to come up with Soldado's value. But my needs, as I have identified them, as not in any particular order: striker, right back, center back, cover, ballsy midfielder. That's the most important, and a winger. And let me tell you the values. And again, these are conservative, almost overstated values. I put 15 million for a striker. I actually think that number can be much lower. Right back, center back, 7.5 million.